the majority of the guys we've got have been either a recommendation through someone, or we saw them, at a showcase or a camp or wherever it may be, and then, did our research from there. So that relationship piece, that's just what I lean on. That's just kind of who I am as a person, and in general is really trying to be relationship driven, and that's where I lean in the recruiting.
Dreaming of playing college basketball? The recruiting process can be overwhelming, but with Net Results Recruiting, you're not alone. My name is Steve Schafer. I'm the founder and president of Net Results Recruiting, a full-service basketball recruiting solution based in Arizona. I spent 21 years coaching college basketball at 3 different levels, decided to get out of coaching because I really wanted to start something that's truly going to help players, families navigate the college basketball recruiting process. There's a lot of companies out there, but I don't know that they all do the things that Net Results Recruiting provides. Our goal is to find options for players that are the right fit at the right level, so players can have a great experience playing college basketball. College recruiting is competitive. If you're not getting the exposure you need, you could be missing out on opportunities. Coaches can't recruit you if they don't know who you are. At Net Results Recruiting, we take the guesswork out of the process by providing a complete recruiting solution, including a personalized recruiting profile that has the right information that college coaches want to see, an evaluation of your game to help us assess what levels you can play at, and a tool to help you improve your game, a player priority list that allows your recruiting expert to understand what is important to you when considering potential college options, promotion to college coaches, and a huge network of college coaching contacts to maximize your exposure. And finally, expert guidance and advice throughout your recruitment journey. Don't leave your future to chance. Get started today with Net Results Recruiting and take control of your basketball journey. Your dream, your future, let's make it happen together.
So I want to talk about scholarships and aid, and it's great that we have you two on, because I think you two come from the most misunderstood levels of how scholarships work. Because where Coach Schaef's at out, in Arizona, there is no D3, Coach Danzig, and Coach Danzig, where you're at, there's hardly any NAIA up there in the Northeast. So Coach Danzig, I'm going to start with you. How does your school handle scholarships and financial aid? And what does that look like for you guys, at the D3 level?
Yeah, so you're going to be evaluated. If you're coming in for our business track, you'll be evaluated on your GPA. Your athletic talent has nothing to do with how large or small a scholarship you might win. For our school, you can win up to half off your tuition, and that's based on just your grades. What we're basically looking at is 3.5 or better. You start getting some scholarship money just based on merit. Then you can also get financial aid as well, and everybody's different. I've got players whose families make enough money that they don't get any financial aid at all, and others who are getting as much as $22,000. So it's a wide range, and our school is expensive because we're a private school in New York City. So the ideal situation is somebody who's in a position where at least they're getting that merit money, where they have grades that are 3.5, 3.6 and better. Because, we have found that it's sometimes tough to cover the full cost for most families. Some can do it, but it tends to be, a bit of an issue once it gets up into that. The last piece just to mention is you also, if you're applying for art and design, you will get a portfolio score. So it's going to be your GPA plus your portfolio score that's going to determine how much merit scholarship money you will get.
You couldn't have said it better. That's great. Because so many people think that they hear D3 and there's nothing out there, that it's just, you're just paying sticker price. And I love the way you broke it down. Coach Tucker, how do you guys handle scholarships and financial aid?
Yeah, similar in a lot of ways. The one big difference being we have athletic aid that we can add, but it starts with your merit aid. Very similar to what Coach is saying there with, we can get you into school with about a 3.0, but you're not going to get any merit aid. It really starts being significant amount around that 3.5 range. And obviously the higher you can go being evaluated, the more you'll get. Our school will cap it around 40%. It's a little over, but right around 40% is kind of the max merit aid. Then on top of that, we'll stack athletic aid. We have a wide variety on that. That comes down to basically our discretion as a coaching staff. Player by player, situation by situation. And then we also can stack additional scholarships. So there's some need-based through our university. Obviously, if you qualify for a Pell Grant, that gets stacked on as well. And then we have, a large amount of our guys have outside scholarships, whether it's through an engineering background or flight or something. Because of how specific the degree programs can be, we actually have some good avenues to stack outside scholarships as well. So for the NAIA, we can scholarship up to max out at the cost of attendance, what the cost of attendance will be for that program. So we have very few guys that get up to that. And so everybody's got a completely different portfolio of aid, but it's that merit aid, athletic aid, any grant funding, and then outside scholarships is kind of how we break it down and look at it, for each student athlete.
Everybody, they think, oh, it's basketball, the job at D1, and D2, you have so much more time with your coaches and development and all those types of things. Being at such a high academic school and a specialized school, is it any different managing your student athletes who are so hyper focused on their majors and the academic side, or are they just like the other guys at the other level? They love the game and you got to kick them out of the gym. What is it like coaching a high academic kid at a specialized school?
That's for me, right?
That's for you, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a sort of yes and yes. So, we will come back, and I'm kind of amazed. We'll come back sometimes for a 3-hour bus ride after a tough game, and all my guys will be fired up to get in shots up in the gym and then get a lift in. And there's a part of me that's like, we're back at it tomorrow at noon, guys. So I feel like if you're on my team, it's because you love hoops, and of course there are other things in your life. But that's a primary. You're not just doing this for the heck of it or because we happen to have asked you one day when we saw you in the hall. So, there's a huge passion for playing, maybe more so at the D3 level, because, when I was a D1 coach, we had them for, I can't remember, 4 or 5 hours on court stuff during the week. And so we're putting them through stuff. Whereas my guys in the off season, they have to be self-motivated. So they're used to running their own practices and pushing themselves to get better. So in some ways it's different because of that. But having said all that, they frequently are managing a lot of stuff. So it's not unusual for me to have to start a practice where I got 2 guys coming in late because they were in architecture studio or whatever it is. And, it's impossible for me to imagine that happening at Division I. But that is the kind of compromises that sometimes we have to make. We'll run practices sometimes at 9:30 at night just so we can get everybody together. And so it's the same, but it's different. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason I'm asking this question is I think a lot of kids, they have no idea how good D3 and NAI basketball is. I mean, I've coached at both levels, and then there's pros at those levels. There's really good players. So to you, Coach Dunker, same question. What are your, how focused are your kids academically, and how do they, how is it balanced with basketball, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, that was a big transition for me, was understanding, how to maybe set up practice, how to set up our days, and how to prepare, especially our freshmen, but all of our guys each year, to get them to understand a routine. And there's only so much time in the day. There is a lot of academic demand. With us, we're still lifting 4 days a week most of the time. We still want you to try to get in and get your extra work. And so it became, after my first year, really, figuring out, okay, we have to spend a lot of time early working with these guys to help them come up with their routine. And I'm not telling you your routine. There's some things that are set, right? I practice at X time, or, you've got classes at this time, but you got to figure out what works best for you. Are you a get up and get your shots before lift in the morning? Are you better doing that throughout the day? Whatever it may be. So that's a big difference is, I don't have as much control over their schedule as maybe we did at the Division I level, where it was, here's your day. Make the most of it, but here's your day. Here's what time you're doing everything. We have to be much more flexible, changing a practice time, or like, Coach Danzig said, we'll start down a guy, or a guy may have to leave, a few minutes early on certain days. And we have to be okay with that. There's no other option, and I want the guys to be comfortable knowing. The big thing we talk with them about is the communication piece. And things are going to come up academically. Things are going to come up. You got to communicate it, and you got to communicate it as early as you possibly can. Sometimes things happen last minute, but if you know about it, don't wait a week. Like, we'll figure it out, and maybe I change practice or adjust something. So it's getting those guys, especially the young guys, to understand that it is, you don't have to try to solve every problem by yourself. Communicate it. Let's figure it out. But like Coach said, we have a group of passionate guys who love ball. They love other things, and they're passionate about other things, and they're really talented at other things, but they love basketball. And that's one of the main things we're looking at in the recruiting process. We want high achievers, guys who, push themselves and want to get better, but that really love basketball, love working, love getting better. Understand, we talk a lot about, and I know a lot of programs do the process, really trying to get guys who are process oriented. When we're doing our background, do they love to really get in the gym and work, or do they like to say, I'm a basketball player? And that's a big thing we're trying to find. You don't always hit it 100%, but that's a big part of our evaluation process, is finding guys who really, truly love basketball.
You guys took like our next two questions, so I'm gonna skip. That was good because that flexibility of, like you said, both of you talk about changing practice schedules. These guys, like, they're there to go to school. They're looking down the road for both of you. And so there's going to be times where they're just going to miss, and you have to be flexible and get as many guys there as you can. And Coach Schafer and I both coached and played at D3. Like, we totally get it, but I'm so glad you guys put that. So Coach Danzig, I'm going to go to you. We got a live period coming up. What other outlets besides net results, because of course this is your one-stop shop, but what other outlets do you guys use to find kids that fit your niche of going out? Are there certain places you like to go? Are there certain, people you like to talk to? Obviously, alumni is going to be huge because they understand what it's getting to. But Coach Danzig, what do you guys utilize besides net results?
I'm on NCSA. I'm on field level. I'm on Captain U, and
we'll edit all those names out.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
I am interested. I just went to a academic basketball camp. There were probably 400 guys there at Babson D3 level, and Babson's in Boston, just outside of Boston. And what's interesting to me is that it's an unusual camp in that they're saying what they want to major in. And that's often not what guys are putting down when they're talking about, they're all talking about their skills and so on, putting together their tapes, but there's very little emphasis on what you want to study, which is fine. But for me, I'm looking through that list, and I'm finding on that list is 400 players. I'm finding 3 who have architecture or film, because we have a really good film program. And so that's what I'm really looking for, is for somebody who's gone, like, they're almost a slight twist in the way they're approaching the whole recruiting thing. They're telling the world, hey, I want to be a high-level basketball player, and I want to study whatever it is, design or whatever it is. And for me, that's very, very helpful.
Absolutely. And that Babson camp is great. We've set many players there, and it's been very beneficial. But you got to be smart enough to get in that one. You guys are talking about the 3.0s, the 3.5s aren't getting into that one. You got to be way up there. So Coach Tucker, obviously, besides net results, what else do you guys use? And you can, I'll bleep them out too, so don't worry about dropping them.
No, biggest thing for me, honestly, is relationships. And I've been fortunate enough that Coach Schafer and I have really built one over the last couple of years of getting here. But that's my number one thing. I found my first year, just being honest, using some other services and stuff, or just looking at them. What I found was a lot of the guys that were recommended or had certain things, to be quite frank, they weren't good enough for our level for us to compete. So I really have leaned into who I think knows our school, knows me as a coach, because I'm different. I'm not everybody else necessarily, and how I go about things. And then the level of just athlete and student athlete that we need to compete in the GSAC conference, which is the best NAI conferences in the country. So for me, it's honestly a lot of personal relationship, whether it's with Coach Schafer, local scout, a guy like Greg Rosenberg, who does a great job in Arizona, who I've known for 15 years. I trust certain, and there are different guys all over the country, but I trust their evaluations. They know the school, have had in-depth conversations about what we're looking for academically, the type of player we're looking. That's just where I've had the most success. There's a ton of things out there. But that one-on-one connection and being able to get on the phone and say, hey, here's exactly what we're looking for. This is what we need. If you have anybody, let us know. That's where I've had the most success. We have also had success. I know Coach Danzig talked about at the beginning. We've had several guys who've reached out and connected, whether it's through social media or, an introductory email, because they do want the specific program. So we had a freshman this last year, one of our incoming freshmen in this class. Two of our last, 8 guys we've signed are guys that have reached out and connected to us that we didn't have a relationship with. But the majority of the guys we've got have been either recommendation through someone, or we saw them, at a showcase or a camp or wherever it may be, and then, did our research from there. So that relationship piece, that's just what I lean on. That's just kind of who I am as a person, and in general is really try to be relationship driven, and that's where I lean in the recruiting. You broke up on my.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
We were able to get Noah Gift over to Embry-Riddle, and we've got Trey Shaman going there this year, and Noah did okay his freshman year. So
yeah,
we're hoping Trey does the same. And yeah,
take those.
Yeah, and we got another one here that we hope that we can get over there. There in the 26 class. So and again, we're continuing to find guys for Coach Danzig as well, and we're going to keep doing that. But my next question to you guys, and this is something I think our audience needs to understand. We ask every coach this when that comes on our podcast. But when you're out evaluating players during live period events or during high school season, what are some key attributes you're looking for when you're looking at players? And Coach Danzig, I'll start with you.
I mean, obviously we're looking for talent, but the one thing that I would say really shines through that I think guys don't really get is, what are you like as a teammate? How much energy are you putting into communicating? To a certain extent, once you're on the floor, you're the player that you are. And I would say, having said that, I can't resist as a coach putting in one caveat, which is just to say, don't just go get yours. God, am I tired of watching that? But having said that, if you're playing in one of these showcases, if you are picking guys up, if you have great energy, that's what we want to see in our programs desperately. And I feel like that can be something that can really differentiate you. And it's something that you control. It's not something that when you get there, you have to all of a sudden be a Steph Curry on the floor.
Great. Love that. Coach Tucker?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the skill, like Coach said, talent level. We really try to evaluate and recruit skilled players. That's athletically, that's our differentiator in our conference is we have to be, if not the most skilled, we have to be right there in our ability with just the nature of our league and how we stack up against some of the other programs. So there's got to be a talent level, a skill level that grabs our attention. For me, I know this guy can help us. He can help us win games and win possessions. To be honest, I really want to see some adversity. It's obviously tough if you go out and you just don't play well for 5 games. That I'm not saying do that, but I always tell guys hey, it's okay you played bad. I actually want to see that, because I want to see how you're going to react, because over 30 games and hopefully 4 years here, you're not going to go 120 out of 120. I don't care how good you are. And so I want to know, like, coach, are you going to be a good teammate? Are you pouting? Are you finding other ways when you are on the floor and maybe you're not scoring, to impact? Or if that's not your role, are you doing different things? So, we talk a lot about that as a staff. When I talk to my assistants, is like, how do they handle adversity? Because that's what we're really looking at, and one thing we talk about with our guys all the time, and same thing when I'm evaluating, is like self-awareness. And I think that's a little bit of what coach is saying, is like, maybe you aren't Steph Curry, or you don't have this range, or you're not a great shooter. Don't go out there and try to prove that you're a great shooter. That's only going to hurt your recruitment. Be aware of what you do well and do it to the best of your ability every time you go out. If you're a great rebounder and shot blocker, maybe you're not the most skilled big, go do that. Go have a great motor, fly around, do what you're supposed to do. Your small guard, pick up 94 feet, do all those little things. But I think that's a big turnoff sometimes, is when you can see a player's not self-aware, doesn't understand their strengths and weaknesses, and continue to try to do something they can't, or they're not very good at, because now that's something, again, we have to try to coach out of them. So those are just a couple of the maybe little nuanced things that we look at when we're evaluating, is that, hey, how do you handle adversity? And are you self-aware of who you are as a player, and how you're going to fit into our team?
That's outstanding feedback that I think our audience needs to hear. So I appreciate that.
Say we're batting 1,000 on a question. We haven't heard scoring once from any college coach that's exactly what the kid has to do. So we say till we're blue in the face with the kids, every week on this show, about it's all these other things. Yes, you have to be able to do, you have to have skill. You got to be able to put the ball in the basket, but that the other things are so much more important. So, and you guys took our next two questions. So now I'm skipping down to after this. This is great. This is great. So Coach Danzig, what type of career support or internships are available to the student athlete? I know you said you got one in the Met right now. That's pretty good career support right there. If you can claim that you're in there, before you're probably legally able to drink alcohol, that's a pretty good thing for that kid. So, what type of career support and internships are out there for your kids?
There's a lot on the business side. They self-consciously bring in professors who are practitioners in the field. So these are guys who are building highly designed buildings. So frequently I have players who are just hired by their professors. On the art and design side, that's a big part of what they're trying to do. They're not just trying to get you to a place where your art and design gets to the highest level it can get. They want you to have a career, a long career in these fields where, frankly, sometimes it can be hard to break through. And so they literally will take a class on business and graphic design. And what they found, I don't have the percentages at the top of my tip of my fingers here, but they found something like high 80% have a job where they say that they're happily employed in the first year out of school, which is frankly probably better. I went to a regular liberal arts school, probably better than where I went. But that's, I think, because there's so much focus on it.
Coach Tucker, same to you. What type of career support and internships are available?
Yeah, I think it's one of the best our university does. To be honest, I think the job placement on the last update was 89 or 90% university-wide within the first 6 months, and that's all programs. The engineering programs are up above 97%. It's crazy to me, having come from a lot of different universities of different backgrounds. But it's definitely embedded in what the university is trying to do. So they really promote internships in the summers as early as your sophomore year. We have a really big career fair for our students. It's called October West. It's like 75 to 100 different companies from all different backgrounds. Obviously a lot of aeronautical and a lot of engineering firms come in. But they actually do interviews for internships and actually full-time positions. My first year here, quick side story, our best player, who was first team all-league, signed a contract, had an interview and a follow-up interview during this career fair in October of his senior year. So he still had an entire year of school left. And he had a contract signed with Raytheon down in Tucson to go be an aerospace engineer. And I'd never had that in my 18 years, having someone already with a signed contract where they still had, 12 classes left. But that was a big part of just what the university believes in, what they really promote. I think a big part of it is because of how specific the degree programs are and how you immediately go into these programs. A lot of these companies keep hiring, our graduates because they have 4 years of engineering versus maybe 2 to 3 of courses. And then you have internships on top of that, and just strictly off resumes and then off past performance. A lot of companies will just call up, they'll call the chair of the engineering department. I have 3 positions opening up in the fall. Can you send me 3 names? And it's just so specific, and there's been so much success from our graduates that it's just a powerful thing. Like we talked about those connections at the very beginning. Who do you align yourself with that can help you get to where you want to go?
And I just want to piggyback on that, and Coach Danzig made me think of something. How about alumni basketball players that are out in the world? How big is that for helping connect your current players with their? Because I know you guys are both, like, you've been there a handful of years, but you've got some guys who have gone through, and now how does that play in, Coach Danzig?
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. Thank you for mentioning that. An example, before my time, we had a player come through who started a big. So now our player who I mentioned earlier is in touch with him, and they're gonna have a kind of mentorship relationship, we're hoping. We've got a guy named Bernard Chang who played at Pratt before my time. He's a high-level illustrator. He's one of these guys who's got 400,000 people who follow him on Instagram because of his design. And he's one of these guys who does the storyboards for Marvel comic movies. And so he'll take some of our guys under his wing and help them turn pro. And when he says turning pro, he doesn't mean basketball wise. He means turning pro as a designer. And so, like you say, these are special relationships that you get through the basketball/college community. And that's honestly part of what makes the experience great.
Yeah, because alumni network is fantastic, but if you take it the even smaller amount where it's a former player that is involved in it, that's a whole nother level. So, Coach Tucker, do you have any examples of that, of alumni basketball players helping out current players?
Yeah, we're in a little unique spot because our program is only 11 years old. So our alumni are still pretty young, but definitely, because of that, there's a really strong connection because there's not that big of an age gap. And it was actually pretty unique. My assistant coach, Doug Biofus, has been here since the inception of the program. So he actually just organized a huge alumni cruise. So we actually just had 10, 11 different alumni, from a couple from the first team, 2 guys that just graduated that went, and from all different backgrounds, but now they're, continuing to keep that connection and build those relationships. But yeah, for us, it's really big to just kind of share those stories. Like we talked about the success, of some of our past graduates who played for us. And then the mentorship piece is what we really try to lean into, of connecting them, hey, ask questions about your time here, but also how did you transition from here into the professional world and get to where you are, and can you advise and help connect? And so that's been big for us. Like I said, it's nice because the age gap isn't very large. So most of those guys are pretty comfortable reaching out and texting or, communicating the way our players are, which has been super helpful, but we're still building our alumni network. So that's our big mission, is to continue to help these guys and get out in the real world and really succeed.
And you guys
cut out. Hold on. Start over. You cut out there, Schafer.
I said we got one more question for you guys, and then we're going to let you guys both plug your programs because we got a lot of players that listen to us. And you guys have already touched on this a little bit, but I'd love for you guys to expand more. But I think a lot of kids who look at Pratt, look at Embry, what kind of jobs can I, if I want, what am I going to be, a pilot? Am I going to be an artist? What kind of jobs can I get if I go to a school like that? So to that question, and you guys mentioned a little bit, Coach Danzig, we'll start with you. What are some jobs that some of your players have gotten or are in, and so some companies that they work for, of your former players? Where have they gone on and worked at?
Yeah. So, I got a center who graduated last year. He was in our business-oriented program, which is about real estate development. He's building a skyscraper in Milan now. So the guys are laughing because this guy just graduated. He's probably making more money than me, and he flies to Milan every other month. So, that's a pretty good story. less probably razzle dazzle, but we've got architects who join high level architecture firms in New York City. I've got guys who've graduated and gone on and done film stuff in LA. So, there's a kind of a wide range of possibilities. But just to say also, I've also got some guys who've gone forward based on their sports experience. And one of them is he's a high level trainer. He's got guys who come flying in from Colorado in order to train hoops with him. Sorry, I'm just getting I'm not sure if that's on my end.
Not any here.
No, we can hear it. Yeah.
Okay. And then I've got a player who's at the University of Oregon. He's a football coach, so they can leverage this experience of being a high-level basketball player and move into the sports world, which is pretty exciting for me and for them. So, I'm 54. I didn't know what I was going to do until I was 35. New York City is a great place to try and kind of figure all that stuff out. And I feel like going on this journey and being a part of the basketball team is a part of figuring out who you want to be as a man as you grow up. And so I think all that stuff is great.
That's great. And Coach Tucker, how about you guys? Where are some of your alums? I know they're young.
Yeah.
Where are some of your alums gone on and gotten jobs at?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that surprised me is just the wide, variety of careers you can get, because it seems like aeronautical, there's one thing, and we have commercial airline pilots, we have pilots in the military, a lot of the 3-letter, so some CIA, FBI. One of our best players all time is an Army Ranger. So there's that fit and that unique, there's definitely a group of those guys. The engineering world, of course, like I said, Raytheon, some different engineering firms, in all different walks, from mechanical, civil, aerospace, obviously being a huge one. Guy who works for SpaceX, some of those programs. But then we've got guys just since I've been here. One's a coach at Eastern Washington, was a graduate assistant and just got promoted after 1 year to be their video coordinator. We have a player who just graduated this year who's going to be a strength and conditioning coach. He was in our biology program. One of the players the year before I got here just finished up at University of Arizona Medical School. So even though it's, an aeronautical school, was in our applied biology program, actually got a full ride to go to U of A med school, didn't pay $1. So he's finishing up here right now, actually. So there's a wide variety, all over the board. Obviously there's different collections where, hey, that's where we're heavily sending guys. But, kind of like Coach said, you're part of a basketball program. The whole sports world is opened up to you, because of connections and relationships. We were able to get one of our guys on, like I said, at Eastern Washington. Another one's getting into the strength and conditioning world because while he was here, he discovered that was a passion of his. He was in a biology program, fell in love with the weight room and the process of, changing your body. And that's the way his career changed, his career path changed. So a wide variety of things you can get into, even though we are, a niche school.
Coach Danzig, you've done a great job plugging your program, but where can kids find you guys, socials, stuff like that? Anything else you want to talk about? Obviously, being in Brooklyn and New York City, you've done a great job selling. I love NYC. So where can they find you?
Yeah, so we're Pratt Men's Basketball on Twitter and Instagram, and gopratgo.com. You can find all the stuff about our programs in general. And just to say, in wrapping up to Coach Schafer's invitation to try and pitch ourselves, I would say what's unique about us is, number one, what we offer academically, incredibly high level, art, design, and business stuff, if that's where you want to go. Number two, we're in New York City. We're right in the middle of New York City. When you walk off our campus, the first thing you see is a place to get the best bagel in New York City on all these different lists. I went to Haverford College. I can't remember a time I ever walked off campus. I don't know what I would have done if I did. So we're offering a unique New York City experience. And then third, we're building up on the basketball side. We just put $12 million into the gym. If you want to go and win a national championship, we're not at that level yet. But if you want to be a part of some building process where you're going to get a big chance to play a big part of this up and coming team, then we're there for you. So, we have those three pieces: the unusual academics, New York City, and then a real chance to be a big part of a team going forward.
That's great. Coach Tucker, same for you.
Yeah, I think, similar in the academic piece, obviously much different programs, but it's really a university that's going to set you up for success, whatever field you choose that we have, right? And so we are specialized in a lot of our programs, but it's an opportunity to come get a high level degree. And what we talk about, like I said, the most is those connections, the relationships, and the network that you're getting with that degree. From the basketball side of things, same thing. We want hyper-focused guys. That's how I operate. We really try to find guys who are motivated to be as good as they can be athletically and be as good as they can be academically. And really, those are your two driving forces. If there's, 6 other things you really want to do and be down, in Phoenix, for us, it's an 1.5-hour drive. You're down there every other weekend. It becomes tough. We want guys who are hyper-focused on athletics, hyper-focused on what they want to do, career-wise and professionally. And we're going to have all the resources we can to help you be the best you can be at those 2 levels. Similar from the basketball standpoint, super young, only 10 full seasons, 11 years with COVID. And, we're really trending in the right direction. But we say the same thing. I want guys who want to come be a part of something special and be the first team that gets us into the national tournament and advancing and doing all those things, and really leave a legacy of being able to come in the gym when they come back with their kids or grandkids and say, see that I was the one who helped build that. I was on that forefront. So we really are looking for highly passionate individuals who are really motivated to help build something here.
Well, we can't thank you both enough for joining us this evening. And off camera, we're going to get a good Coach Hurley story from Coach Danzig here once I stop recording. So we thank you guys for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Okay, tell us a good story, Coach.
Basketball players, are you grinding in the gym but struggling to get noticed by college coaches? Your talent deserves the right exposure, and that's where Net Results Recruiting comes in. Whether you're in high school, junior college, or prep school, we help you connect with college programs, get you promoted to college coaches, and receive expert guidance throughout your recruitment journey. Don't leave your future to chance. Get exposure, get guidance, get results. Let our team find your team. Visit netresultsrecruiting.com today and take the next step towards your college basketball dream.